The NFL offseason is in the books, and many eyes are now turning towards what could be a very unpredictable summer. Will there be a training camp? What capacity will it be in? And just how challenging will it be for NFL teams to acclimate their new signings? All of this is totally up in the air, but what isn't is what's already done, and that is, of course, the NFL offseason. The draft, free agency, trades, all of them have left the Eagles with a very different looking roster to this time 1 year ago. And talking of that time period, around this time last year, we uploaded a video comparing the 2019 roster to the 2017 roster. So to complete the full circle, we will now be comparing the 2020 roster to the 2019 roster to see just how much has changed, how much has improved, and how much better or worse the Eagles are heading into this season. Before we get started though, guys, as always, a massive thank you for taking the time out of your day to support this channel. I know how difficult times are right now, and there will be links down below in the description to things like the Philadelphia Bail Fund and the Minnesota Freedom Fund if you do want to aid charities at this time. We're doing all we can to bring you as much content as we can. We're planning some charity streams and such over the next few weeks, so if you want to stick around for that, that would be amazing. If you haven't already subscribed, we're so close to hitting that 20,000 milestone, and we would love for you to be a part of our community and really do some fun things as a family. And as always, if you could take some time to check out our work at phillysportsnetwork.com, that will be massively appreciated. It's where you can find content from myself and all of our writers covering every single Philadelphia sports team. Our aim has always been to be the change that this industry so desperately needs, and hopefully you're going to find what you're looking for over at Philly Sports Network. Alright, let's start with the most important position on the team. It's quarterback, and this has obviously seen quite the transformation over the last 12 months, but whether or not it's better or worse, I think at least comes down to subjective perception. If you want a position that's primed for development with the wild card of some spicy dual quarterback looks, then hello 2020, there is no way this is even close. But if you'd rather a proven veteran behind Carson Wentz, a backup that is, like it or not, been called into action every season since Wentz has been in the NFL, then as of right now, 2019 has the edge because Jalen Hurts hasn't taken an NFL snap. But the Eagles want to become a quarterback factory, and if we've learned anything in the last year, it's that Nate Sudfeld still isn't ready to jump into a QB2 role. Jalen Hurts could flip this offense on his head, and such a heavy investment cannot be ignored. I'm also here for all of the Carl Laletta preseason snaps. The winner here for me is 2020, 1-0. It's now time to take a look at running back, and the big gaping hole here has been left by Jordan Howard. But as things stand, this is a tricky one to gauge because the Eagles are now officially all in on Miles Sanders, and while they're actively seeking a veteran downhill rusher, they're also reportedly refusing to pay much more than a veteran's minimum, which is obviously problematic when trying to sign someone of Devonta Freeman's standard. The 2020 group is light, but it finally appears as though there is some clarity at the position, as opposed to a band of backs who can't quite seem to find a groove until injuries set in, as we've seen in recent years. However, the lightning and thunder combination of Howard and Sanders had the potential to be so damn powerful that losing that and refusing to add to the position outside of undrafted free agency has to be seen as a slight drop-off. 2019 has the edge because that backfield did some real damage when fully healthy last year. Onto the offensive line, and again, this is murky because the Eagles haven't just lost Jason Peters, but also Halapoulivaati Vaitai, a serviceable backup who had over 50 games played in during his time with the Eagles. There's a total lack of experience behind the starting tackles right now, and one of those starting tackles himself has 4 starts under his belt, and one of those came on the opposite side, which really didn't end very well at all. Now, although Jack Driscoll's versatility and Prince Tega Wanaga's addition could be important in years to come, 2019's offensive line was about as complete as one could ask for. In a few years, that may change, and 2020's group now could obviously develop, and we may see Driscoll move to centre, for instance, but as of right now, knowing the landscape of the offseason, this is an easy decision. 2019 had everything. Tight end, and this one has seen some movement, but not an overwhelming amount, and that for me is at least a little bit upsetting because I'm a big fan of 13 personnel, and I loved having Trey Burton around. The Richard Rodgers experiment has failed drastically, and Josh Perkins continues to develop under the radar as a leaner pass-catching tight end. The signing of undrafted free agent Noah Togiai is an intriguing one, but he too is a pass-catching tight end, and the position still lacks a solid tight end 3, but it's not like they ever had one in Richard Rodgers, who missed most of his tenure in Philadelphia with 2 back-to-back injuries. So overall, this is a tie. They stayed about the same. On to wide receiver, and I mean, do I really need to say anything here? The change in positional outlook within the space of just a few short months is absolutely monumental. It's a total overhaul, and the Eagles now have more speed and talent than they'll know what to do with. They spent a first-round pick at the position on Jalen Reagor and added some really talented depth in the way of Marquise Goodwin, John Hightower, and of course, Kes Watkins. There's a lot to like here. 2020 wins this by a landslide. Now move on to the defensive side of the ball, and this is the first position that really kind of disappointed me this offseason because Brandon Graham isn't getting any younger. Derek Barnett is entering a crucial stage of his career, and the team let Vinny Curry walk into free agency. Now they could still technically bring him back, which would sort of overwrite that, but this puts a lot of pressure on the shoulders of Josh Sweat and Sharif Miller. Now the former I think could well be a breakout candidate if he continues to develop. The latter played 2 special team snaps last year. That's it. Obviously Deshaun Hall exists. You've got Jannard Avery that's listed as a defensive end. I like Casey Toohill. Joe Ostman is always a name to watch, but this is a very weak group in terms of experience. If you compare it to 2017, where you had names like Chris Long, Michael Bennett alongside Brandon Graham and Barnett, it doesn't come close. This is a significant downgrade. I'm a little bit concerned about its longevity, and I feel like it's headed for a big change in the next few years. So 2019 has the edge here. Defensive tackle, and this group is monstrous. In fact, it may be the most dominant group in the entire league. You've got Cox, Javon Hargrave, and Malik Jackson, not to forget someone like Hassan Ridgeway, who was really, really impressive during a short stint where everyone else fell injured at the position last year. I love Anthony Rush as that big body out of UAB last year. Bruce Hector brings some special teams prowess. I love this group. It is going to be so fun to watch. 2020 dominates this one. Linebacker, and on paper this hurts because the Eagles obviously let go Nigel Bradham, Camu Grugier-Hill, Zach Brown was cut by week 1, and LJ4 I'd rather not talk about in case I start crying. This is tough, but the additions in the secondary, I think, will negate the lack of depth here. I think the Eagles are going to lean to playing more nickel and dime sets. They fielded 2 linebackers, I believe, in the majority of their snap share last year, which is absolutely fine. I love what I've seen out of TJ Edwards. Nate Gary has proven to be serviceable, and I like Alex Singleton a lot. Davion Taylor brings a lot of speed to that unit as well, and obviously then you've got a core group of special teamers underneath. I don't know. I feel like in terms of starting prowess, we have to go with 2019. We need to see how this defense pans out first. If you're just going by this position group alone and not how they plan to negate the lack of movement they made this offseason, 2019 wins by a landslide. But overall, I think it will be a little bit closer than we expect. Cornerback, and this is much like wide receiver in the way that I don't really need to say anything. The Eagles have a true shutdown corner for the first time in forever and have some real gems in the way of Trevor Williams and the Cal Roby Coleman. I love those additions. You factor in guys like Sidney Jones and Captain Cravon. This unit is about as complete as it's ever been. 2020 wins this one, and it's not even close. Finally, safety. The Eagles lost Malcolm Jenkins this offseason, but negate that with a flurry of versatile faces. Some are familiar, and some certainly will be in a few short months. Names like Kayvon Wallace will be added to that list. This is a big improvement from a spot that has largely been transient outside of Rodney McLeod and Malcolm Jenkins. Now they finally have firm fixtures there. Will Parks can play in the box. Obviously Mills can play inside. Kayvon Wallace lined up in the slot in the national championship game. I think this is really going to be a fun position group to watch. They'll largely come down and fill in for those linebackers. I'm just excited to see how they go, but 2020 wins this one for sure. So overall, who had the better roster? Well, 2019, in my opinion, we're better in the following areas: linebacker, defensive end, running back, and offensive line. So that's 4. 2020 were better in quarterback, wide receiver, corner, defensive tackle, and safety. So they were better in 5, and the tie was at tight end. Now, I know this is a primitive way of grading a roster's improvement or regression, but I also feel as though just going case by case ignores the bigger picture at each position. Overall, the Eagles put pieces in place at each spot that wasn't significantly improved, so that in years to come, it most definitely is. Just look at the offensive line. Just look at linebacker. Guys like Jack Driscoll and Davion Taylor speak volumes there. The only area that doesn't apply to me is defensive end, and that is a genuine area of concern. But overall, the Eagles have got better, and when you look at the areas of the roster that needed to be improved, they were cornerback, they were wide receiver. I don't mention quarterback, alright? That's another discussion. Overall, I think they've done a masterful job of crafting this roster. We just need to find out if the team can make that count on the field. What do you think though, guys? How would you score this roster compared to 2019? Let me know down in the comment section below. Thank you as always once more for taking time out of your lives to watch this video in such a stressful period for us all. From myself, Liam Jenkins, please be safe and we'll see you soon.